So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon! Thank you. I've walked by your classes. I know how loud you are. Good afternoon, everybody. Much better. So, can everybody hear me okay without the microphone? Yeah, no, not so great. Is that better? Okay. All right. So, I'm going to ask you to come in here and talk a little bit about seeking out wise people. So, I'm a clinical psychologist. I do some work with hostage negotiation. I do some work with sports psychology, training some martial arts. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story about an 11-year-old that I know. Actually, it's not 11 anymore, but it was when the story started. So this 11-year-old started out in a family that was fairly jacked up. You know, I mean, mom and dad fought a lot. There's some domestic violence. A lot of different rough situations. Didn't have a whole lot of money. But this 11-year-old really likes playing football. Played pee-wee football. And he found that when things were going pretty rough, he could really go over with his coaches. I remember this one time he told me about where his parents had just gotten into a huge fight. Big rainy night, huge fight. Went over, stayed the night at the coach's house, just bawled to his coaches. Just bawled to them about what a rough time he was having. This 11-year-old had a younger brother. I think he was a year and a half when this took, or no, he was 8 months old when this took place. His younger brother was diagnosed with sickle cell and died. Right in the middle of football season. He stayed more days with that coach than he did with his parents. The death of his younger brother drove a real wedge between his parents. His parents ended up dividing and splitting up, divorcing. But he kept contact with those coaches from pee-wee, moved on into middle school, found some other coaches that he was connected with in middle school, found some other teachers that he was connected with in middle school. One of his teachers, his history teacher, the only reason he made it through middle school was because his history teacher loved to talk about different tortures that could be inflicted on people. And that's all he talked about in class. But actually, come to find out, he actually talked about a lot of other things. But that was the hook for him. That was the connection he had. Continued with sports, played football, ran track, wrestled, made it into high school, passed all his classes because he had some really good coaches that he was connected with, because he developed a work ethic because of it. Made it into college, went to college, played college football, played some sports in college, had several peers, but several intelligent, wise people that he talked to in college, mentors that he talked to. He had a professor that he was constantly bouncing ideas off of. Told me about one time where his sophomore year, he went and talked to one of his coaches, his head football coach. He was really upset. There was this girl that he really liked, and he was head over heels over this girl. And the girl's mother and father did not want him to go out with her, didn't want her to go out with him. And he was heartbroken. And walked into the coach's office, and he was a good-sized guy, walks into the coach's office, says to the coach, looks at the coach, who's one of those wise, white-haired older guys. I'd probably have white hair too. Looks at the coach and says, if you had a daughter, would you let me date her? And the coach looked at him and said, well, yeah, I mean, why not? And he just started, again, bawling. He just poured his heart out. This is what's happening, this is what's happened, and they won't let me do this, they won't let me do that, and they think this and they think that, and that coach didn't really do anything to change the situation, but the coach listened to him. The coach was there for him. The coach heard him. So he made it through undergraduate school, talked to some other wise people, and decided to go to college, or go on to graduate school. went on to graduate school, got his doctorate. Yeah. The same day that he graduated with his doctorate, his daughter was born. And his mother was beaten to death in Cincinnati. The same day. In a 24-hour period, he received his doctorate, his daughter was born, and his mother was beaten to death. He was a little bit distraught that day. On his way down to the funeral, he was talking to another mentor, another friend of his. And again, he was, I didn't solve this, I didn't resolve this, I didn't handle this. And his friend looked at him and said, you know what? Your mother is closer to you now than she's ever been. You have better access to her now than you ever have. So, that individual also got asked to come and do an assembly at Wilmington Middle School today. So what I was asked to talk about was wise people. And when I kind of looked at my life, I found out that through no choice of my own, I don't think, I was surrounded by wise people. Had several wise people impact my life in ways that I had no idea at the time that they were having that kind of impact. But I want to change the topic a little bit today. Instead of talking about finding wise people and seeking out wise people, I want to talk about how you can be wise people. You know, the best way to find something that you're looking for is to be whatever it is that you're looking for. So how can you be a wise person is really what I want to take a look at today. What are the characteristics of wise people? What is a wise person? Is it this gray-haired, old lady, old man? So that's what I want to kind of take a little bit of a look at today. And I'm going to have to talk really fast, it looks like. So, how old does someone need to be wise? 30. Old enough to talk. No age limit. Okay, so let me ask it a little differently. When you think about a wise person, just kind of picture in your head a wise person. When you think about a wise person, how old are they? Give me a number. Get out a number. 87, 30, 33, 48, 2, 13, 70. Okay. So here's what the research says. The research says there is absolutely no correlation, no relationship between the age of a person and their wisdom. There's also no correlation between someone's intelligence and their wisdom. But those are two different things that are not related. That you can be wise and not very intelligent. You can be intelligent and not very wise. You can be both or you can be neither. It seems that wisdom is the ability to take your experiences, your life experiences, and use them in order to understand things and predict the future. It has nothing to do with intelligence. Wisdom is about how well I can take what I've experienced and use it, whether I am 11 years old or 21 years old or 71 years old. It doesn't matter. So what are some characteristics? If you wanted to act wise, if you wanted to be a wise person, what would be some things you do? One is, you need to be able to see the world in ways other than good or bad, right or wrong, black or white, yes or no. It's called non-dichotomous thinking. Shades of gray. So, I know the speaker is important, but I need to set it down for a second. Real straightforward question for you. Just a yes or no. Is the flame that was on this lighter the same flame that's on that candle? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. No? Got your nose too? No. Yes. Yes. No. So for you who says this is the same flame, it's using oxygen. It's using fuel. It can't be the same flame. For those of you who said it's not the same flame, we didn't relight it. It's not a different one. That is only a problem when you look at it as either or. When you realize it's both the same flame and a different flame, then there's no confusion, there's no problem. It's only when you think that it has to be one or the other. When you think someone has to be your friend or your enemy, they're nice or they're mean, you love English or you hate English, as long as you look at the world and it has to be one or the other, that's a problem. Wise individuals recognize that things aren't quite that simple. That the universe doesn't quite work like that. That things are much like a dimmer switch instead of an on and off switch. So that's one characteristic that you need to be able to do if you're going to be wise. I need to be able to balance my interests with the interests of other people. It's not that I'm completely selfless. It's also not that it's me and I don't care about anybody else. So I look for solutions where I can win and someone else wins. It's the opposite of what's called a sum-zero equation. Sum-zero equation is a piece of pie, is a pie. If I eat half of it, then you can only get half of it. And I'll eat half of the pie, I'll just let you know now. A sum-zero equation says that there's only so much stuff out there, and what I get, you lose, and what you get, I lose. If I can see the world as bigger than that, it's called synergy. It means, it's like music, which I cannot play to save my life, but I understand that it's supposed to be like music at least. That you can take all these notes, but it's the notes plus how you put them together, plus the pauses, plus the rest, and that's what makes it a song. That it's more than just the pieces coming together. That's synergy. That is a non-sum-zero equation. That's how I look at things and see what's good for me and what's good for others and work for a combination of those two. Wise people try to understand rather than judge. They try to make sense of things rather than call something good or bad or right or wrong. I can look at something and say, this causes me harm, so I don't want to do it. But that's not the same as judging. Judging it says it's less than. And it's really easy to do that. I see somebody and I say they're different than I am in some way, and I notice that difference, and then I say that difference gives them value or me value. And if I say they have less value, then I can judge them. By the way, it's really easy to hurt somebody that you see as different and someone that you judge. If you make somebody less than you are, it becomes really easy to hurt them. As a hostage negotiator, the first thing I'll teach people is if you are in a situation where you're a hostage, get them to know you. I have a wife, I have kids. Make yourself a person, not an object. That goes against judging. Judging says your value of your worth go up and down like a commodity. Non-judging says, I don't like this because it can cause me harm. I like that because it takes me closer to where I want to be, but it's not good or bad. The last thing that wise people do is a lot of times they focus on purpose instead of pleasure. That if something has meaning to me, if something has value to me, it's even more important than just whether or not I like it. Anybody here involved in a team sport or a club or something like that? Anybody here connected to a family? Anybody have any friends? Anybody have a favorite color? somebody, you know that there are things that you would do that you wouldn't do for yourself, that you'd be willing to do for them. If you play on a team, you know that you'd be willing to deal with pain when you wouldn't be willing to do that just for yourself. If you have friends, you know there are times where they can text you or call you late at night and you really do not feel like talking to anybody, but you'll take their call because you know they're in trouble. I need to focus on purpose. Now that is such a big deal that real quick, they did some research where they took people who were injured in natural disasters, earthquake, typhoon, things like that, and they split them into two categories. People who were hurt just because of bad luck, you know, they were walking outside and the building fell on them. See, I say that and people laugh, and I'm really curious about that, because I laugh when I say it too. They take people who just got injured because of bad luck. They weren't doing anything particular. And they compared them with people who got hurt in the process of helping somebody else. Someone else, the building had fallen on, and they were pulling them out of it and they got hurt. And then they looked at their injuries and they found some pretty amazing things. The people who were hurt trying to help somebody else healed faster, were less likely to die from the injury, had less infection rates, had less pain. Somehow feeling like I'm doing something that matters makes it easier to do, more effective, can affect your immune system and a whole bunch of stuff. That's what wise people do. So, if you have the good fortune like I did to be surrounded by wise people and to kind of fall through life and having wise people in your path, that's great. If you can recognize what wise people do, though, that's even better. If you seek out people that don't judge, if you seek out people who are always talking about how everybody can win at something, if you're seeking out people who are looking at things from different perspectives, then that'll help you surround yourself with wise people. And the best way to do that is to be a wise person yourself. So, really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you guys. Thank you.